Good morning. I've identified as Unitarian Universalist for 24 years now. During that time, I've met a good number of fellow UUs who have identified as religious humanists, agnostics, atheists, neo-pagans, and Buddhists. Some of us are Taoists, when we can remember to be. I've also met many, but not as many, for whom their Christian heritage still centers their spiritual life, and some for whom Jewish religious traditions and rituals hold an important place. Fewer still, but still some, find important meaning in the Baha'i tradition. I've known a few folks, mostly those raised in India, for whom Hindu traditions and understandings are important. I've known 2 UU Muslims, 1 a divinity student, but in 24 years, I've only met 1 UU family whose religious understandings were and are rooted in Native American spiritual traditions. Ann Gilmore is a friend of mine from the Jamaica Plain UU Church. Until his death in 2002, she was married to Russell Peters, a member of the Wampanoag tribe, whose tribal name is Fast Turtle, a paradoxically intriguing appellation, don't you think? Anne was a member of the JP Church, as was her daughter Amanda. Russell was not, but he attended occasionally, mostly in support of his wife and daughter. Russell was president of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council and was at the forefront of the 27-year effort that resulted in the Wampanoags being recognized as a tribe by the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs. For this UU family, Native American spiritual traditions, especially Wampanoag traditions, were, of course, of central importance. Other than the Peters-Gilmore family, though, I know of no other UUs whose spirituality is rooted in indigenous traditions. And that fact may be reason enough for us to invest some time in learning more about the traditions which anchored the lives of the people who lived on this land for thousands of years before European colonization. Because there are at least 574 Native American or American Indian tribes, it would be unwise to refer to an American Indian tradition. Various tribes will embrace various traditions which developed within their own cultures as they formed, influenced by geographical and familial considerations. Nevertheless, most, if not all, Native American tribes share some things. Jack D. Forbes in Spirituality and Ecos, a 2001 article in Daedalus magazine, provides a helpful overview. It is common in Native American traditions to envision the creative process of the universe as a form of thought or mental process. Second, it is common to have a source of creation that is plural, either because several entities participate in creation or because there are several actors who emerge as the process unfolds. Father, mother, or grandmother, grandfather. Another common element in the variety of Native American creation stories is that the agents of creation are seldom pictured as human beings, but are depicted as wakan, holy, or animal-like, coyote, raven, the great white hare, or as forces of nature, such as wind, breath. In Native American indigenous cosmic visions, one central idea stands out. Creation is a living process, so the result is a living universe. Within that living universe are living things. All living things are in kinship because all developed together along various timelines. All are part of a creation story that is ongoing. The Western concept of evolution comes to mind, though we often think of biological evolution occurring in terms of specialization, emphasizing the individuality of species, whereas native understanding emphasizes interrelatedness, kinship. All of creation is in relationship with us human beings. All aspects of creation are in interrelationship with all other aspects of creation. Mother Earth is a living being. That phrase may be familiar to you from the work of scientist James Lovelock, who 50 years ago coined the phrase the Gaia hypothesis. The description is a mouthful. Living organisms on the planet interact with their surrounding inorganic environment to form a synergetic and self-regulating system. That system created and now maintains the climate and biochemical conditions that make life on Earth possible. That's using much more abstract language than we hear in Native American formulations, but it captures the same spirit. Here is a teaching of Slow Buffalo from 1,000 years ago. Remember the ones you are going to depend on. Up in the heavens, the mysterious one, that is your grandfather. In between the earth and the heavens, that is your father. The earth is your grandmother. The dirt is your grandmother. Whatever grows in the earth is your mother. It is just like a sucking baby on a mother. Always remember, your grandmother is underneath your feet always. You are always on her, and your father is always above. All is living, all is interrelated. All American indigenous traditions, as far as I know, share this understanding. The specific stories of creation, though, vary from tribe to tribe with many common strands, depending often on how close those tribes are geographically. Here is a version of the Iroquois creation story from a website called Weebly, serving elementary school-age kids. In the beginning, the world was not as we know it now. It was a water world, inhabited only by animals and creatures of the air who could survive without land. Up above, the sky world was quite different. Human-type beings lived there with infinite types of plants and animals to enjoy. In the sky world, there was a tree of life that was very special to the people of Sky World. They knew that it grew at the entrance of the world and forbade anyone to tamper with the tree. One woman who was soon to give birth was curious about the tree and convinced her brother to uproot the tree. Beneath the tree was a great hole. The woman peered from the edge into the hole and suddenly fell off the edge. As she was falling, she grasped at the edge and clutched in her hand some earth from the sky world. As she fell, the birds of the world below were disturbed and alerted to her distress. The birds responded and gathered a great many of their kind to break her fall and cradle her to the back of a great sea turtle. The creatures of the water believed that she needed land to live on because they saw the land in her hand. So they set about to collect some for her. They dove to the great depths of the world's oceans to gather earth to make a place to live. Many animals tried to gather earth from the ocean floor, but only the muskrat was successful. With only a small bit of earth brought onto the turtle's back from his small paws, Turtle Island began to grow. The Sky Woman soon gave birth to a daughter on Turtle Island. The daughter grew fast. There were no man beings on Turtle Island, but a being known as the West Wind married the daughter of Sky Woman. Soon, the daughter of Sky Woman gave birth to twins. One was born in the natural way, and he was called the right-handed twin. The other was born in a way that caused the death of the mother. He was called the left-handed twin. When their mother died, their grandmother, Sky Woman, placed a fistful of earth that she grasped from the edge of the sky world and placed it on her daughter's grave. The earth carried special seeds from the sky world that were nourished by the earth over her daughter. So, from the body of her daughter came the sacred tobacco, strawberry, and sweetgrass. We call those Kilon Hekwa, the life givers. It's not hard to imagine the circumstances out of which this story and others like it were created. In the evening, when the sun went down and the air cooled and the day's work was done, the people gathered around a fire built to keep them warm and perhaps to keep bothersome insects at bay. Under a clear night sky spangled with stars, the questions that intrigue us all arose in conversation. Where do we come from? How did the world begin? Did the earth come first, or the skies, or the seas? Did we arise from ourselves, or did we need other beings to provide for us the foundation of our existence? Their answers emerged from such a search. The context of the search was a natural environment in which the people lived, populated by animals and plants that surrounded them in daily light, lit and warmed by the sun, nurtured by the rain, dependent upon the earth, everything somehow related in some way to every other thing. The tools that they used for their investigation were not the tools of science, but the faculty of the imagination. They imagined a world into existence, their understanding of that world. Is it so different than the imaginings of the people of the Middle East, the so-called Holy Land? Didn't they, too, imagine the God of their creation into existence? The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. A different people in a different clime, with different cultural traditions and social mores, imagine into being a different kind of God, a God separate from his creation rather than embedded in creation. Is one creation story more believable than the other? Is one formulation of God more valid than another, more convincing? It all depends on your perspective, doesn't it? And the variables that come together to create the circumstances of that perspective. The word that we Westerners use for the belief systems of the Native American tribes is animism, the belief that objects, places, and creatures possess a distinct spiritual essence. Animals, plants, rivers, rocks, even weather systems are animated and alive. The science-based Western worldview takes a dim view of animism, seeing it as a primitive kind of understanding, based not on demonstrable facts, but on something akin to superstition. Instead, we use the term energy to describe that which animates us, gives us life, allows autonomous action. Each being, animal, plant, river, rock, weather system, contains and expresses energy in varying levels at various times within a neatly subscribed system called a body. Each body separate from each other body, but capable of interacting with other bodies. In a system we call animism, there is a spirit in each being, and each being is being fed by a wider, interpenetrating, unifying spirit, the source of all life. In our Western worldview, outside of the relatively new Gaia hypothesis, which sees the entire Earth as a living being, we are each self-contained energy units, capable of interacting, but essentially independent, and self-contained. It seems a bit chauvinistic to insist that our worldview is better than that of indigenous peoples, doesn't it? Especially when we, Unitarian Universalists, insist on the interdependence of all things, living and non-living. Native American languages have no word for animism because animism is an anthropological construct. It does not arise from the daily experience of persons and peoples in the world and their connection to the environment in which they are embedded. Instead, its source is disembodied analytical assessment, which is intended to reinforce the subject-object dualism on which the Western worldview is dependent. I wonder if there will ever come a time when we can hold at one and the same time the Western-based methodology, science-based methodology for understanding at the conceptual level, and an imaginative, experience-based understanding of a living world where my spirit, your spirit, the spirit of the aspen, the yew, and the maple, and the rabbit, the cougar, and the elk, the fruit fly, the dragonfly, and the earthworm, the frog, the salamander, and the cobra, the limestone, the granite, and the quartz, the algae and the moss, the fungus and the lichen, the river, the stream, and the ocean, the dwarf star, the comet, the asteroid, the cisgendered, the transgendered, the questioning, the question and the answer. Hold them all in dynamic tension through which the great spirit, the subtle spirit, the mysterious spirit frolics and moves and connects us all. When we do, I will call that a mature spirituality. Native American spiritual traditions hold in common the understanding of creation as a living process in which we all participate and in which we are all contained. A second aspect of that tradition hold in common is that everything in nature must be held as sacred, as expressed in this quote from Black Elk. The rock is the earth, your grandmother and mother, and it is where you will live and increase. All of this is sacred, so do not forget. Every dawn as it comes is a holy event, and every day is holy. For the light comes from your father, Wakantanka. And also you must remember that the two-leggeds and all the peoples who stand upon this earth are sacred and should be treated as such. The third aspect, shared by all American indigenous people, emerges from the second. Because all is sacred, and because we are privileged to live among all that is sacred, an attitude of gratitude is called for, is appropriate, is necessary. I have heard the words, at least some of the words, of the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving address used at a cups gathering, one way in which Native American spiritual teachings have been adapted by us. As we enter this Thanksgiving week, it is appropriate that we close our sermon today with the words from that Thanksgiving address. If you wish to participate, all you need to do is at the end of each of the 6 declarations of Thanksgiving, respond, "Now our minds are one." Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. The Earth Mother, we are all thankful to our Mother, the Earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us, as she has from the beginning of time. To our Mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. The waters, We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls and rain, mist and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the Spirit of water. Now our minds are one. The food plants. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, the vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them too. We gather all the plant foods together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. The medicine herbs. Now we turn to all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away our sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy they are still among us, those special few who remember how to use the plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and to the keepers of the medicines. Now our minds are one. The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in deep forests. We are glad that they are still here, and we hope that it will always be so. Now our minds are one.